I went over and I've tried getting under here.
Oh, would you look at that? You got under? Yeah, look at that. Look at that.
Get from behind
look at that.
And you can't do it.
Oh, look at that. Look at that.
Yeah,
look at that.
And if you tell that to the cops, they're not going to give you any consideration.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, there's ritual here. Surely we get an invitation for doing it. Oh my... There's no way! There's no way! If I check in this thing and there's gonna be an invitation, I called it. What is that? What is that? Holy cow! There's no way I called that the moment he starts laughing.
The Wild One's power is mine! Get on nothingness! Oblivion awaits! So long as you
That was easy. That was really easy.
exist.
Let's go! Did we get anything good? Oh! Prismatic Jewel? Is that guaranteed? I don't know. Did we get the thing? Okay, let's see what we got. Energy shield. Physical damage. No! Let's go. Let's go, dude. Opus Cursed Trove. I think that's the first time I've ever gotten a Divine Orb here. That's pretty crazy.
Your absurd defiance ends here, hatchling.
The cleansing fire's champion must fall.
Annihilation. The fires of 1,000 suns. You do not have the strength, hatchling.
That may be, but I am not alone.
How pathetic. Is that all
I
you
want the
have,
assets. It's
hatchling?
mine.
Annihilation. The hatchling surprises.
Challenge me for this realm.
Hey, how's it going? It's me, Vashtalos. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you found the meme intro fun. If you enjoyed it, please be sure to like and subscribe, as there are certainly more where those came from. I love making them for you guys, and yeah, please like and subscribe. I'm going to go ahead and talk to you about some other stuff before we get into the build. I'm sorry I haven't posted an update of my journey through this character like I usually do. At least day 1, day 3, day 5, week 1, blah, 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 blah. What I'll usually do. I really haven't been feeling that well. I've got to restrict my diet in a lot of ways for this upcoming appointment that I've got with my doctor tomorrow, and it's the big day. Tomorrow's the big day, bright and early, and I hope it's not going to be bad news. So, the build. I am Henry Porter. Power charge stacker. We have 14 power charges, and it was a lot cheaper to put together than I thought, but also more expensive in certain areas like Enlighten. Does Enlighten have any business being as expensive as it is? I know it's rare. Does it have to be rare? Enlighten is a core part of so many people's builds. I don't think it needs to be 18 Divine Orbs, y'all. I don't really like that. So, if you can find a way to not buy an Enlighten for this build, you've got my blessing. The defenses, however you say that extremely alien word, there are none. Armor, where is it? Evasion, 18%, low W. And then energy shield, only 4,453. There are other versions of this build on Occultist that you can get this number to be much higher. That's not what my version is about. I wanted damage. I've never made a character like this where I go just 3 sheets to the wind, all in on damage. It was an eye-opening experience. There is a surprising amount you can get away with just by killing everything. There are certain bosses that are exceptionally easy due to us being Chaos Inoculation. My number 1 recommendation for a boss to farm, super easy, King in the Mists. We do so much damage, he doesn't even ever get to have a chance. The maze is almost impossible to fail due to Lightning Warp, increasing our clearing speed and travel speed. If you make a mistake, you can travel back just as fast as you got there. I have never even felt worried one bit while going through that maze on this build. Some bosses I would like to not recommend. The first non-recommendation, or at least one that you should seriously respect and try to learn how to anticipate a certain ability of theirs, that would be the cat boss associated with Harvest, specifically Vivid Crystallized Life Force. He's the yellow cat, and the ability I'm talking about is he goes stealth and puts you in this circle that he starts running around you with. And that circle disables your movement abilities for quite some time. Lightning Warp is the premier defensive layer of this build besides Leech. So when he does that, it's really screwing us over. Massively screwing us over on this build. Made me so mad every time it happened. Sometimes I would try to anticipate it and it would still disable my ability. And the other downside of this green circle, it doesn't end there. You will take guaranteed massive, overwhelming damage if you stay in that circle. At least on this build. I think it's physical damage, as it's green. Go figure. Not chaos damage. Whatever. I'm not upset about it. It's fine. Whatever, GGG. Green isn't chaos damage. But if you stay in, you take damage. If you try to exit the circle, the perimeter deals damage. And a lot of it. Enough to kill you. So, couple bummers in that fight. I don't really know what the intended play there is. I know you have to leave the circle, but why do you still take damage for doing the intended mechanic? I find it a little confusing. I don't know if it's bugged or not. I just find it difficult to accept that no matter what you do, you're going to be taking some damage. There's a couple of spots like that in the game, whether a monster has Flicker Strike or another ability that just gets right on top of you. Ambush is a culprit there. A couple of rare monsters will roll the ambush modifier and absolutely truck you. If you don't have, I would say around 4,500 energy shield, you're just going to straight up get one shot because the evasion just isn't there. If it frustrates you, push that evasion up. And my top recommendation for that would be putting 2 points into Soul Thief and then the Mastery 1% increased evasion rating per 10 intelligence. The other boss I would really like to talk a little bit of smack about right now is the Incarnation of Dread. I think that's the right one. The Dad Dragon. You know, Zana's Dad Dragon. He's an asshole. And he's an asshole because he has 4 invulnerability phases. I'm guesstimating off of my traumatized memory. And then in these invulnerability phases that you can't deal damage to anything during, you have to go and collect a bunch of red and blue roses or whatever, and then bring them back to him amidst a bullet hell of screen clutter. I really don't like it. It makes me feel like I'm playing a game that isn't PoE, as, yeah, something about invulnerability phases just seems like a wag of the finger. Not so fast. You'll usually have enough portals to complete almost any bosses due to the amount of damage that this build has. But with Incarnation of Dread, and maybe a similar boss with invulnerability phases and a little bit of a gauntlet to go through, you can die more than 6 times during the bullet hell. So I would really stay away from that boss if you're planning to target bosses on this. Further on that note, I wouldn't really recommend this build to most people unless you are capable of letting the deaths wash over you, rolling with the punches, trying to discern monster behavior between your lightning warps, or being observational, I think is the best word for it. You have to take your deaths as getting outplayed on this build, because ultimately you have everything you need to get through every single map and every single boss fight, and that's movement. Lightning warp is crazy, y'all. Instant movement. Instant. Now, not completely instant. I have it supported with a less duration support, and you may notice that I'm not using the warped timepiece, whatever that amulet is called, that every other Kinetic Fusillade build is using right now. I put it into PoB, and I'm sure warped timepiece is better due to the whole Gatling gun feature that it provides. But I felt like I was still able to achieve that. And PoB was telling me that Ephemeral Bond was infinitely more damage. This was saying it was like 34 to 40% damage overall. Didn't feel like I could ignore it. Just absolutely did not feel like I could ignore it. Anyway, you'll usually have everything you need just with Lightning Warp. But it is the bullet hells, it is the invulnerability phases that are really going to get you on these pinnacle bosses. Alright, here we are on the Tidal Island in Act 1. And the reason I'm here is I would like to demonstrate how movement is a defensive layer. Especially on Lightning Warp. I'm not going to use Lightning Warp on the demonstration, as you won't have Lightning Warp on the Tidal Island right now. But while playing this build, I really couldn't stop thinking about how Hillock is essentially a tutorial on how to do this. The next best option to demonstrate this is here on the Tidal Island, and it is with the cold, unique NPC. I forget what his name is. Whatever it is. So, here he is. Hail Rake. I move left, I move right. 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 That's it. That is the whole philosophy behind movement as a defensive layer. Whenever I'm Lightning Warp around, we're trying to dodge. We're trying to be unpredictable. There's no reason to lock yourself down, throw out a flame wall or a hydrosphere or a tornado, in my opinion. We've got more than enough damage. Just blink around anywhere we please, clear the map, in less than 2 minutes and get back into another one. But you can even do this in like melee, you know? It's like, just run around.
Freeze!
I don't know why I never thought of making a character like this before. I always thought that, you know, defenses made the World of Ray class go round, but this is far more successful than I ever thought it would be. Some of the easiest times on bosses I've always struggled with, even with well-rounded defenses, all-rounder characters. This build kind of sliced right through. It's not a hardcore build. I think that is evident. You shouldn't be watching this or considering this build if you're a hardcore-only player. But it is genuinely one of the most fun builds I've ever played for the movement alone. I'm a huge fan of movement. Whether it's a racing game or old snowboarding games. Yeah, I think movement is one of the most fun things you can ever do in video games. Because it can get so wacky. It can get so out of control, so fast. It's exhilarating. Having to think as quickly as your character is moving. A lot of fun. So I'm going to start talking to you about the rest of the build. Gear, the Ascendancy, passive tree, leveling tips, so on and so forth. Let's go ahead and get started. So we covered the basics. Now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about the gear. It'll be really straightforward. It's all power charges. All right, just a short and sweet one for you right there. Void Battery. The premier corruption implicit for this wand is damage penetrates 10% elemental resistances. Grab one. Almost nothing else on it matters. Precursor's Emblem. This is an outrageously expensive ring that I would not recommend to anyone looking to replicate this build. What I would recommend to you is a Ramira's Foulborn Ramira's Banquet. Sorry, I was getting the order wrong. And the DPS compared to a Precursor's Emblem from a Foulborn Ramira's Banquet is extremely similar. And you get a free power charge out of it. So why not just use 3 Foulborn Ramira's Banquets? Foulborn Ramira's Banquet will actually end up outperforming, in DPS specifically, this Precursor's Emblem, as long as the Foulborn Ramira's Banquet has an implicit of some flat damage. If you have a double implicit of flat damage, it's way better. It's so much better than this Precursor's Emblem. Try to get some Foulborn Ramira's Banquets with flat damage on them. Other good implicits for Foulborn Ramira's Banquet would be increased effect of one of our auras, like Wrath, Discipline. Elemental resistances is a huge pain point of this build if you want to use every single item that I'm using here in this video guide. Ephemeral Bond. This is what we're using instead of Warped Timepiece. Usually you are going to see this amulet and this ring, Time Clasp, used with Kinetic Fusillade. And that is so that you can get this Gatling gun feeling just by holding down your mouse. The projectiles will have a lower duration than your actual attack speed. It takes some balancing. Sometimes you'll have to go in here and say to yourself, okay, I don't have the ability to have this attack speed anymore. I got to get out of there. Maybe you have to make a drastic decision and forego multi-shot and the attack speed leading up to it. Probably not. It's a lot easier to achieve the Gatling gun feeling than you may believe. And the way that I achieve my Gatling gun feeling is through a Foulborn Skin of the Lords that applies 30% quality of socketed gems, and that also works with our less duration support. So from the support alone, we have almost 75% less skill effect duration. Really nice. You can get one with a multitude of keystone notables. I chose Iron Grip. We have about 130, 140 strength. And I thought that it would be nice to get that damage back, since we had to invest one of our suffixes. We had to path a little bit differently on the passive tree to pick up that strength. I didn't really like prowess. I don't know, something about the notable attribute. If I'm not an attribute stacker, I just really do not want to do that. Graven's Secret, a staple for any power charge stacker. We have 14 power charges. How much is it? 12? 12 times 14, so 4 times 12 would be 40, 48, plus 120. We have 168 recoup, is that right? Let me use an actual calculator. 168, yeah. 168% of elemental damage is recouped. Ralakesh's Impatience makes it so that we were always benefiting from our maximum power charges and the absorption charges. Malachi's Loop, 4 plus 2 max power charges and some additional power charge scaling. We do get shocked. Yep, we do get shocked. Oh wait, no. Sorry, I'm wrong. Because we never reach our maximum power charges anymore with Ralakesh's Impatience. So there is no downside. I was wrong. Oops, I solved it. And the only rare item we are using is a pair of Warlock gloves. The implicits, the only one I really care about is gain rage on hit. Do whatever you want otherwise. I chose accuracy. A lot of people choose exposure. I wanted accuracy. Fire resistance is whatever your build needs. It's not important. And I haven't crafted my in-game pair of gloves for this build yet. But if you were to, I would recommend an Abyssal Socket. An Abyssal Socket, fire resistance or whatever resistance you need, and then strength. Those are your suffixes. Unless I'm misunderstanding and the Abyssal Socket isn't a suffix. If it's a prefix, whatever. Those 3 modifiers are what you will actually need on your gloves to be an in-game variant. You can then craft on the damage while leeching. I don't know if I have it. One-handed range. No, it's gloves, right? Yeah. Let me wave my hand around. Damage string, yeah. Increased damage while leeching. Used to kind of be a pain to craft this one, but now that Exalted Orbs are so cheap, this is very, very doable on multiple pairs of gloves. And that's really it, you know? As much energy shield as you could possibly get on those gloves. Those 3 modifiers with the benchcraft for damage while leeching. Did I forget to mention any of my gear pieces? Oh, my weapon swap. So, at first I was using this sword in order to equip Red Blade Banner, as I did not have the necessary strength for it. So I found myself a stat stick rapier with a low dexterity requirement and double tier 1 attribute. Well, not double tier 1. Is that tier 2 dexterity? Tier 3 dexterity? That's trash. This helped us quite handsomely while figuring out the rest of our gear and wanting to benefit from free endurance charges. We have a weapon swap. Get your endurance charges if you want. Honestly, I don't ever feel like I really need them anymore. But it was nice to have when I did. A little bit of extra survivability never hurt anyone on this build. Trying to double check if I have anything in these weapon swaps, but I don't really think there's anything that interesting. I'm just leveling some gems. Our flasks. Enduring Internal Mana Flasks. Get one with Corrupted Blood immunity. Get one with immunity to ignite, immunity to shock, removes curses on use, and hinders nearby enemies with reduced movement speed. You can drink all of these at the same time. Look, they're all rolling. That is a lot of mana regen right there. That is a ton of mana regen. Does it actually show us? Maximum energy shield. Why can't I read? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so it doesn't count as mana regen per second. Is it? Go up in miscellaneous. Leech. I don't see any of the numbers changing. I guess we just don't get to see the number about how much mana it actually regens for us. But it's a lot. I think it's safe to say it's a lot. Other mentions. I guess I could talk about this in the passive tree section, but I would like to include it in the gear section as jewels are gear. You're going to want large cluster jewels, 8 passives, martial prowess, veteran defender, vicious skewering. Vicious skewering is only here to push veteran defender and martial prowess to the front of this 8 passive wheel. You don't want to put points into vicious skewering at all. Don't do that. It's bad for the build. We just wanted veteran defender for the attributes, the elemental resistances, and the increased energy shield. Martial prowess for the accuracy, a little bit of extra damage, and the jewel slots. The jewel slots are really important. You need flat energy shield, global critical strike multiplier, and as much flat damage as you can possibly get. I have a bunch of jewels like this, and they go really far. They add a ton of damage. Every single one of these, you're going to feel it. You're going to really feel it when you add one of these to the build. Feels great. Getting yourself some evasion rating and sparing a damage modifier is actually pretty sound. You can get a ton of evasion through this and all of these jewels that we're putting into the build. And like I said before, you can pair that with Soul Thief, 1% increased evasion rating per 10 intelligence. You'd actually end up evading quite a few attacks. Implicits to look out for are increased mana reservation efficiency and corrupted blood immunity, of course. Finding a jewel with corrupted blood immunity that looks like one of these, it's going to be either absurdly expensive or it's just not going to happen. You'll want Light of the Meaning, 3% increased energy shield for each passive and radius. More jewels. One of them you may have to get some elemental resistances on. Perfectly fine. Don't feel bad about it. Still a great jewel. The other jewels are Lethal Pride and what is it? Transcendent Flesh. This gives us 82% to critical strike multiplier. If we were to approach level 100, we would spend those final points on Throat Seeker, as this is slightly less critical strike multiplier than this 5-point investment for Transcendent Flesh. We also really need the resistances from this little path if we're going to be using as many unique items as we are. Further on the Lethal Pride, try to get one that will give you chance to deal double damage and chance to intimidate enemies on hit. These are going to be the only way you can achieve these on this build. These modifiers are not easily acquired any other way. Maybe if you wanted to use Natural Affinity, but unfortunately Natural Affinity does not work with Lightning Warp. It will immediately remove all Grasping Vines from our character and thus provide no double damage benefit if we are continuing to warp around, which we are. That's the build right there. I think I covered everything that could be considered gear. Let's go ahead and talk about the passive tree. I'll go over the POB after this, by the way. This is just kind of like a... I don't know. I'm just talking. Listen up. Charge Mastery, 3% increased damage per Endurance, Frenzy, or Power charge. The only charges that we aren't able to have extremely consistent uptime on are Endurance charges. Maybe Frenzy charges if you're not hitting a rare monster, but we almost always are. So, safe to say, Endurance charges are the biggest problem when it comes to charge uptime. Wand attacks fire an additional projectile. Prism Weave, you need to go on the bottom side of this wheel. Power charges, more of them. Accuracy from Intelligence, another cluster jewel. Chaos Inoculation. Ghost Reaver for that fat, sweet leech. Power Charge. Frenzy Charge Generation. Mark the Prey for damage increased against marked enemies. Multi-shot, additional projectile. Kinetic Fusillade loves that. There's no hope of you reaching 12 projectiles as an occultist. You can reach 11, but you will have to use greater volley and greater multiple projectiles. Unfortunately, awakened greater multiple projectiles has been removed from the game. So the final projectile that would have made 12 in sequence possible for a different variant of this build, I was trying it out at one point in time with different support gems, you would have to have awakened greater multiple projectiles, which is only available in standard now. So if you end up playing this build and you enjoy it so much that you want to continue playing it in standard, you have awakened greater multiple projectiles to look forward to. It won't feel that significantly different, and it is actually lower DPS than something, say, like Volatility? Is that the name of the support? Yeah. Volatility just absolutely flattens that extra projectile support gem. And that is because Volatility is applying to all of the hits, whereas the additional projectiles come with a downside of less damage, and each projectile is only dealing more damage after one was before it. So not all of them are dealing the same damage. Does it end up evening out if you give up a damage support? The answer is no. The answer is no. Don't focus too heavily on reaching that maximum number in sequence. The Gatling gun is much better. Kind of lost my train of thought. Inversion Mastery. You need this. It's so powerful. They nerfed it for a reason. I wouldn't even be surprised if they nerfed it again. It's a staple. If you're an elemental build, you have to take this almost. Reservation Efficiency. This is my Corrupted Blood Jewel. It's got resistances on it. And that's it. Nice. Spell Suppression is completely useless. Cooldown Recovery. Not cooldown recovery, sorry. Less skill effect duration. It is the highest priority of this build that you get reduced skill effect duration, as it improves the quality of life, it improves the damage. You'll see what I mean. It is night and day difference when you're going through the campaign, and as soon as you pick up this wheel, you're like, that's pretty quick. That's pretty darn quick. So that's my quick little rundown of my passive tree as it currently is. Let's look through the POB together now. Starting off with the POB, we will go over the Ascendancy. And let's start with the leveling Ascendancy. I wouldn't recommend Withering Presence anymore. I thought we were going to be hybrid the whole way through. But before you get your Bloodline Ascendancy, I would recommend this order. First Ascendancy, Forbidden Power. Second Ascendancy, Vile Bastion. Third, Void Beacon. Fourth, Frigid Wake. You will get rid of Frigid Wake once you have killed King in the Mists, and replace those two Ascendancy points with Toad's Price and the Unseen Hand. I don't know if this is actually the best decision, but I thought it was a lot better than just increased cold damage, or more cold damage with a little bit of a freeze immunity. It's a nice defensive lair with the chance to freeze nearby non-frozen enemies for 0.4 seconds. But I'm pretty sure because we're investing in reduced skill effect duration that it may lower the duration of that. I'm not confident, but I'm going off of a hunch here, and I just didn't really want to risk it. So, the Nameless King we chose for that +1 ring, and that is why we also use all of those mana flasks, if you were wondering that earlier. So, now that the Ascendancy is out of the way, I want to talk to you about the leveling tree. The leveling tree is as follows. You're going to make a beeline For this wand mastery, wand attacks fire an additional projectile. You'll save this for later or whenever you feel like you need some extra mana reservation efficiency. But your second honest beeline is the right side of this wheel. You can go the left side if you really want. Lose out on a little bit of accuracy rating, but you also subtract some attack speed, which is nice for the Gatling gun later on. And you'll want intelligences added to accuracy rating with wands. The second spot you'll be headed over towards is for Prism Weave. Go on the bottom side like I was saying earlier. And if you're still suffering from mana reservation issues, pick up the Spellslinger Mastery from Wands. You're not going to hold on to this forever, but it is a great band-aid until you can acquire the more expensive modifiers, or hopefully not, inevitably purchase an Enlighten. I just don't really think the build needs it. You'll have enough damage, and you could just replace Enlighten with 8% increased mana reservation of efficiencies node, or something or other. Maybe a rare helmet instead of Will Clash for 10% increased mana reservation efficiency. I even bought 2 Enlightens, and I just didn't really ever feel like I was making a good decision. Okay, I'm dragging my heels throughout this explanation a lot, I'm sorry. Power charges, increased damage per charge. And then you really want Leech. You're going to make a blitz for it. I don't even want to say a beeline. Like, you need this. You need this before anything else you decide on in the campaign. This over here is for damage to get you going. And then this is to make you capable of actually completing the campaign instead of dying every single time you get too close to something or other. I have a bunch of imports in here too. I have 4 imports in chronological order. So import 1 is the beginning of my journey, and import 4 is the final import. I also have imports for the gear pages so that you can see the progression of my gear. I'm not going to go over every single item in the item section, if any at all, because I have already talked to you guys about that in a previous section. You already know every single piece of gear I'm using, and anything before is just an example of how you can get there. For the skills, we also have some imports at the day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, and default, you can consider this as what you would do on League Start. So I'll rename that for you. There you go. What are the skills like, though? Kinetic Fusillade will be supported by Greater Volley, Sacred Wisps, Power Charge on Critical, Trinity, less duration. Trinity is not going to have full effectiveness unless you've got fire, lightning, and cold damage to help satisfy the resonance mechanic. Make sure that you have at least a jewel with each of those elemental damage types. It's really easy. You get way more damage from a single jewel than you actually think, and it's more than enough to satisfy Trinity. Power Charge and Critical outperforms... Oh goodness, what is the other support that a lot of people are using instead of Power Charge and Critical because they're not stacking them? I'm kind of having a blank on it right now. I don't really remember. Also, my POB is being a little funky right now. It's not calculating the damage of things correctly, but on a prior day, when it was calculating it correctly, all of these are as optimal as I could make it. Again, there's that one support gem that I'm kind of having a lapse in memory over, but if you're going to do this as an occultist, you're going to be using Power Charge and Critical, because that is... What's 14 times 4? 40... simple math, too difficult. 56% more damage from this support gem right here. Pretty nice. Pretty darn nice. And a large reason as to why Ramirez Banquets, the Foulborn version, go so hard on this build. We've got all sorts of different angles for power charges to give us additional stats, but this is a big one. This is a real big one. Sacred Wisps. I read somewhere that this is anywhere from 60 to 85% more damage for our main skill. Crazy support gem that they added recently. And having after played it for once, it's a lot of fun. It's cool. Immortal Call. I was talking about using Purifying Flame, but it just didn't really end up feeling useful. I was reading that it was like a hardcore decision of attaching cast when damage taken to Purifying Flame. I could never get it to feel meaningful. So I'm going with a level 1 Immortal Call with cast when damage taken. If we get hit once, no big deal. If it's still on cooldown and you get hit again, a little bit bigger of a deal. Purity of Elements, Herald of Thunder, Frost Blink. These are all for going through the campaign as a League starter. Purity of Elements, Herald of Thunder, and Frost Blink, they're all going to go away. Might as well take out the Enlighten too, because you're not going to have an Enlighten on League start. Shield Charge, faster attacks. Frenzy is Frenzy. We do not attach anything to that. And Sigil of Power is Sigil of Power. We don't attach anything to it. Enhanced has nothing for Assassin's Mark. I think it would do something for Mark on Hit. It's up to you. There's a couple of choices that you could make. You could choose Enhance, you could choose Empower. I think Enhance is better for the quality of... And my POV is having a moment. I'm pretty sure it's chosen specifically for Mark on Hit. I never did it. I never ended up getting an Enhance attached to my Assassin's Mark. So don't feel like you have to either. I would say this is a great League starter. You shouldn't overinvest, as League starters often go. You should look for a line in the sand where you can say to yourself, I'm getting some diminishing returns for the amount of Divine Orbs I'm pumping into this build now. Spellslinger, Flame Wall, Hydrosphere. You don't have to do this. You could just attach Hydrosphere to Spellslinger and then use Flame Wall whenever you feel it is necessary, i.e. for bosses. Before you get Kinetic Fusillade in Act 1, you would use Kinetic Bolt with Prismatic Burst. There's not really another support gem that you would want to attach. Maybe Pierce? Pierce could be okay. But Volley is actually bad. It'll lower your damage too much from Kinetic Bolt and Prismatic Burst. So this 2-socket combo is actually pretty good until you can get your 3-link Kinetic Fusillade with Volley. Use Clarity until you pick up... excuse me, my throat is really dry. Use Clarity until you can pick up the Leech Mastery. Once you pick up the Leech Mastery, you're home free. You don't need Clarity anymore. What I get for talking too much? Weak burp. Weak burp. The import and those that follow are going to be a mix of League start choices and the final import choices. Final import is what I am currently using. So if you just want to know what that is, make sure you are checking import 4. And in fact, I'll do you a favor. Rename it. Final. Done. Done. So in the final import, Stormblast Mine is something that I've kind of been going back and forth on. But whenever you've got it fully qualityed, each mine applies 4% increased damage taken to enemies near it. We support it with Charged Mines, Minefield, and Swift Assembly. Minefield and Swift Assembly, when qualityed, give us a little bit of extra mine throwing speed. And then charged mines, when we have our frenzy charges, makes it much, much easier to throw these down in the middle of a fight. I wouldn't recommend doing it often, but if you notice a window where you can and throw your mines back out, let's just do the math on how much increased damage that is real quick. So 4 times 18, that is the maximum amount of mines I can have without investing into them at all. And that equals 72% increased damage taken for enemies around those mines. That is a lot of increased damage taken. If my DPS number is to be believed, check it out real quick. I don't think it's actually doing everything correctly. Yeah, I don't know what I did, but it's not displaying the correct DPS number anymore. My DPS should be around 25 million, and whenever we apply the 72% increased damage, it would bump it up to around 30 to 35 million DPS. But I'm not positive what I clicked to make it display such an abysmal number. And now I'm sad because I made changes to the POB for y'all's quality of life, and I might have to unsave those. It won't be too big of an issue. I'll figure it out after I get done recording this. So, back to the skills. Stormblast Mine. You don't have to do this. It increases your reservation efficiency. It's only for bosses. You're never going to do this in a map. It's pretty useful for harvest, especially harvests of doubling. You'll just straight up delete the monsters. Pretty fun. Enduring Cry, Urgent Orders. The Kinetic Fusillade is not relevant. It's just something that I'm leveling up for the coins achievement. Wrath, Discipline, Precision, Enlighten. Damage, Energy Shield, so that we don't get one shot. Immortal Call, cast when damage taken. Sigil of Power, again, only for bosses. You're not going to be using this anywhere else. It's not useful while mapping. Kinetic Fusillade, we're just going to get these. Those are not part of the build. Kinetic Fusillade, when you're at the end game, those are the same support gems. Assassin's Mark, Mark on hit. We do have an empty socket, so we might as well use Enhance. Spellslinger, Lightning Warp, less duration. That is our primary defensive layer right there. Whenever we click, we move. Pretty smooth. Let's talk about the Storm Mines again real quick. So, I said you don't have to do this. One of the alternatives... Sorry, my headset just died. One of the alternatives are Spectres or Animated Guardian. Animated Guardian a little bit more dubious. You're probably going to struggle to find some utility from him due to his ability to die easily. Spectres, I see a lot of people using. So I think it stands to reason that we could probably do the same. They're usually using it in a 4-link setup. Elemental Army, Minion Life, Empower. I'm not sure what Spectres they're usually using. I assume the ones that grant auras. I assume ones that have passive effects like increase your critical strike multiplier. There's a lot of choices for some of those corpse item Spectres. However, I don't remember whether or not they have to be rebought. I think GGG buffed the quality of life on them, but I also could be wrong. I haven't played a minion build this season yet, so I don't want to speak out of turn. But I thought that could be an interesting angle. You know, you just go Spectres. Oh my gosh, it's really chunking, y'all. Power. Elemental Army. Spelled it wrong. Loading. Live. And that is probably one of your best ways to give them a little bit more survivability. You could, instead of using Sigil of Power at that point, then use automation with, what's the skill called that makes them spawn towards you? Convocation. Thank goodness it was at the top of the list. You could use Convocation attached to automation to keep your specters close enough so that they don't die regularly. I didn't do this because I wasn't confident in how they would perform in bosses. I just decided to forego using the raised specter cheese strats that a lot of top tier build makers are using. I don't even know if it's a good decision. I just see a lot of people doing it, so I assume there's got to be something to it. We are going to disable that, though. We're going to disable that. Alternative to one black. For the configuration, Soul of the Brine King or Soul of Lunaris, it's up to you. I was using Soul of the Brine King before I swapped to Chaos Inoculation. And then I went over to Soul of Lunaris. I swapped back to Soul of the Brine King after getting rid of my Purity of Elements, as I needed to not be frozen. Soul of the Brine King is the easiest way to achieve that. So that is the final major god I'll be using. Soul of Ralakash, I don't want to die to bleeds. Pick up Soul of the Ralakash. We use power charges, we use frenzy charges. Let's see here. Sigil of Power, we're not going to care about those stages. Not really got the best uptime. I keep the effectiveness of my shock low so as to not pad my numbers. I do not have the 72% increased damage as a custom modifier, but I guess I could put that there. And no, I'm not going to do it because it's really up to you if you guys want to do that. My rage, I only have it at 15, as I only have 1 rage gained per hit. It falls off really quickly, so I think it stands that we're probably not ever going to reach 30 rage instantly, unless you get a better implicit on those gloves. Is there anything I forgot to click? Intimidated. Check. No. I think that's it. I'm not here to talk to you about the calcs. If you need a calc explanation, any other content creator who has covered Kinetic Fusillade is going to give you a better rundown about how those numbers work out. I think there's even a Kinetic Fusillade calculator out there, so I've heard. Go and give it a try. I tried it once or twice. It seemed kind of finicky to me and not exactly one-to-one representative of what was happening to me in game. Like, it would tell me that I needed a lot less of this or a lot more of that. And then I would do that, and it was like, no, now it's even worse. I was like, what do you want me to do? Telling me to check these numbers, and I put the numbers in. I keep getting worse number. Hey, look, wait. I don't know what I did, but our damage number is back. Nice. Hit save. Hit save. Whew. Crisis averted. Crisis averted, man. Now you guys get to see the real DPS number. Besides the 72% increased damage. All you'd have to do if you really wanted to see that was a short multiplication. I think it would be that number plus open parentheses, that number times 0.72. Is that how that works? And then close parentheses? I'm sorry, I shouldn't be talking about math. I'm dumb as hell. I'm way too dumb to be talking about numbers in my head. I love doing math in my head, but I know a lot of other people don't, so I'm not here to stress you out. Not here to stress you out. Yeah, that's it, y'all. I hope you found this informative. I hope you found it entertaining. I hope you've been having a great time on 3.28. I think it's an absolute blast. Mirage, starting to wear off on me a little bit. I wish they would have given us more variety when it comes to the wishes that she offers. I had high hopes that it was going to be very roguelike, that there would be some sort of progression to the mirages as you continued to do them. That's okay though. I still have been having an absolute blast this season. Mirage is clearly a hit. The loot's completely fine. A little bumpy on League Start, but that's to be expected. It happens. No matter what game you're playing, if there's a new release, there's going to be some bumps in the road. I haven't really been that upset at anything besides guaranteed damage from specific monster types, specific bosses, and the hurdle of accepting that this build just will die sometimes. You can hit level 100. It's actually not that hard if you come up with a strategy that doesn't involve the problems, i.e. the Harvest Cat boss. Harvest in general has some rippy moments. So I would encourage you to probably play this on another Ascendancy. Just do Warden. You're probably going to end up doing more damage, and you won't have to stack power charges. You may have room for actual defenses. Probably not a lot. I hear it's still pretty ZHP over there. But you won't have to give up your flasks. You won't have to use all of these unique items. You won't have to have resistances as one of your major issues. You probably won't be getting one shot as much because of the hybrid nature that Warden has going on. The Warden can also do Chaos Inoculation, so I'm sure I just made some suboptimal choices, and it's not really Occultist's fault. It's more of the limitation of my knowledge or willingness to continue to experiment after putting the build where it is right now. That's it. That is the build. Thank you so much for tuning in. You guys have no idea how much it actually means to me that you take time out of your day, come and see whatever it is that I'm up to and the games that we all enjoy. And your support is no different. So please hit the like and subscribe button. It'll help out the channel a whole heck of a lot. Besides that, I will hopefully come back with some good news after the doctor, guys. I'm hoping that I'm working myself up for no reason. And in all honesty, I'm a little scared. Yeah. I'm a little scared. It is what it is. It is what it is. Whatever we find. So, I hope you guys are well. I hope you're staying hydrated. I hope you're having some good food with great friends. I hope 3.28 is treating you well. I hope you're looking forward to the PoE 2 season coming up. And hopefully, I will see you guys here next time. Peace out. Have fun.